Can I have a motion to resume public session? Dr. Richards? Ms. Littlewood? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. We're now back in public session. Please stand for the pledge. All right, Mr. Daly, do we have any agenda changes?
We have one addition to our consent agenda for pricing for the cafeteria.
Thank you. That moves us on to board president comments. As we are reaching that midpoint of the summer, there's been a lot of different activity going around not only this district, but all of our other districts as we work towards recouping our energy levels, looking at data, analyzing data, looking at areas of growth and progress and areas that still need growth, what our goals are as a district and as individuals. This has resulted in a concerted effort by the district to really have purposeful and useful trainings and conferences for different staff members to attend to really make sure that everybody's engaged in the work that the district values. Recently, there was the Regional Equity Network, which many of our administration from Gage Tyler attended and participated in. I had the opportunity to go for my work as well. So it's always a really engaging experience when I get to interact with both districts at the same time and really see what work we have in common. At this event, it was really kind of a really cool experience to see one specific panel that spoke, which included our ex officio student member, Lucas, and student members for other districts. And it was facilitated by some wonderful people in the back of the room. But really having the opportunity to hear the voices of some of our students directly and the work they're doing in their districts and how that work might compare to other districts as well. Let's see. The other area that I wanted to touch upon was the upcoming board retreat as the board does their work of realigning themselves, making sure that we're all grounded, having the ability and the time to really work together, see where we're at and reaching our goals and how we can make sure we're aligned with the district's work for the year. At our upcoming retreat, we're going to do some work around board governance, making sure that we're growing in that area and our understanding and our learning, and really making sure that we're grounded in our norms and our goals for the upcoming year. Do we have any points of interest? Okay. Do we have any reports of meetings? Thank you. We have no visitor comments. Okay. At this point, we are going to make a motion to pause the meeting until after conducting a public hearing on the Code of Conduct. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Littlewood? Ms. Urbanowski? Any discussion? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. We are now paused.
Good evening, President Coffey, Vice President Richards, Superintendent Daly, and members of the Board of Education. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the recommended changes to the Code of Conduct this evening. This work really began over a year ago and involved many stakeholders. We partnered with our colleagues at the Children's Institute, Whole Child Connection, who have guided similar work in neighboring districts around our region. We asked Maureen Mustafa George, Associate Director of Equity School Services, and Andrea Bertucci, Manager of Professional Learning from the Children's Institute, to join us this evening. And they will discuss the process they helped facilitate and the results of the work. So I'm going to invite Andrea and Maureen to come up at this time.
Good evening, members of the board. Come on up, Andrea. We're going to do this tag team together. Or can you want to stand right here next to the mic, or are you good there?
I'm good.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right. Thank you so much for having us. We're very, very honored to be here standing before you after this culminating year of work that we have done with stakeholders in your community, just to share updates with where we are in the process now. I want to thank those of you on the board who were part of that work. Thank you so much for that, and Superintendent Daly as well for being a part of that work. So without further ado, let's get started. Oh, love it. All right, Andrew, you want to do this one?
Sure. So this is just a quick slide to show who we are. People may be familiar with us, but we just want to.
Whoa. I don't, it's kind of going too fast. Okay.
So we work to build the capacity of child-serving organizations, working mostly with adults, but always being informed by students. To bring SEL, our work is all grounded in SEL, culture responsive and restorative practices. So then we'll talk a little bit about our process.
I think it's just going to go. Making it just go? Thank you, Eva. Okay, let's talk a little bit, and now I'm trying to advance it, and it won't go. Eva, can you advance us?
Yes, I sure can.
Thank you. All right, so just to give you a sense of the work that has happened and who this work has happened with, we had a number of stakeholders that were involved in this process. The process that we use on the Whole Child Connection team is very participatory. And so the way that we look at evolving and revising a document like the Code of Conduct means that it is lifted by your community. We view ourselves as partners and facilitators in that work. So as you can see, we have had a number of people involved in the process. The group was anywhere between 30, 35 people. And certainly involved staff, and not only staff, but also students, families, district level administrators, building level admin, a number of people that you can see here. Our directors were involved in that work as well, meeting monthly over the course of the year, and we'll take you through a little bit of the process, but this is just to give you a sense that your community very much had a hand in lifting this work. So the words that you see on the page are the ones that are coming from your own community. Want to go ahead? Do you want me to do this one? Or do you... Okay, so this is a sense of our process. It's kind of hard to see on this screen. They're easier to see on this screen here. We engage in a process that takes place over a year. We started this work in September. We actually started before that doing a little bit of planning with our planning team. And we walked through this process, and every month we convened and we met and did a little bit of the work. So our process really involves organizing that team of stakeholders, bringing them together. In month 2, we actually review your existing district data around referrals, suspensions, and compare them to what national trends are to really look at what's happening in the district to help inform our process. We then take a moment to actually look at your existing code of conduct, and we look at it with a lens of what is asset-based, what can be improved. We look at words around subjectivity, what is vague, and then we take that and we compare it to other districts' code of conduct in the region. So we have a nice sense of what's happening, a snapshot of Gates-Chili compared with a snapshot of what's happening in other districts as well. We then take a few months to develop and draft and revise the code, and we work on certain sections with the stakeholder group, and then we engage in what's called the accordion model that we have developed over time, which seems to really be a way to get feedback from the community. What we know is the stakeholder group, as representative as we want it to be, means that not everybody can always be a part of those sessions. And so the accordion model allows us to take portions of the code that were in draft, push them out to stakeholder groups, get feedback in real time, and then bring it back to the larger community. So for instance, if we had drafted sections that were pertinent to students, such as cell phone policy and dress code, which you know students are very, very interested in, we would push that. We pushed that out to our middle school students and our high school students. They gave us really rich feedback about that. Parts of it they gave feedback on the policy, parts of it they gave feedback on practice. We brought that information back to the stakeholder group, and we continue to revise. So we did those accordion sessions with elementary staff, middle school staff, high school staff, mental health teams, MTSS teams, a number of different stakeholder groups. So what you get in the end, where we are now, is this very, very robust, authentic document that a lot of people have had their eyes on before we send it out for public comment, which is where we're at now. Okay, do you want me to do this one?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Either way,
Go
we
ahead.
wanted to just share some of the feedback from our stakeholders from the beginning. So we wanted to just make sure that we were really capturing their voice throughout this. So we hadn't, or the district had not reviewed comprehensively since 2013. A lot has changed since then. So we wanted to make sure that we were thinking about what the world is today, what do our students need, what do our staff need, what does our community need. It was a really dense document, and the layout and the formatting was a little bit confusing, difficult to access. There was confusion in different parts around language, around process. So we really wanted to look at those things. We wanted to make sure that we updated the glossary so that terms that were confusing were really defined. We wanted to make sure that we saw students and the strengths that they're bringing and not seeing them as problems, that we really are looking at it from a more restorative lens. So this is our approach. So we really wanted to make sure that this was aligned with all of the district initiatives. So making sure that we're incorporating SEL, those restorative practices, MTSS, as well as the culture responsive sustaining education framework. And we thought it was really important we use this often throughout the process as a reminder of really grounding our work in that asset-based responses. So looking at student strengths, really partnering with students and families, leveraging students' knowledge, culture, experiences, values, and perspectives, seeing them as the assets that they are, and that remembering that behavior is communication. So we really want to look at what's behind that and look at those needs and see how we can better support students.
Oh, yeah, sure. So this is the main part of the code that will probably garner the most interest. It is a significant shift from what the existing code has been, and something we wanted to spend a little bit of time with you just explaining and showing what the shift is. So the tiered responses and interventions are a shift from the way that we've looked at behaviors and what we would call consequences in the past. The new system that the stakeholder group really decided on using mirrors the MTSS approach that the district is already developing. So it's kind of walking hand in hand with the systems that are being developed. And the way that we're approaching behavior rather than consequences is addressing student behavior through responses and interventions. So we have a tiered system of responses and interventions, and students can walk through those. They can be bumped from one tier to the other, or if a behavior is escalated high enough, it can go through that as well. I think the important thing here to note is that the purpose of this is really to be able to get to the bottom of why behavior happens and to teach what the positive behaviors are while also ensuring accountability. I think oftentimes what happens is sometimes there's a misconception that restorative practices and SEL let go of that accountability piece. You will find that that very much lives in this document as well. So as I said before, we have approached behavior in a multitude of different ways. There's one way in which multiple incidences of the same behavior can increase in intensity when it comes to responses and interventions. You will see that lifted in the document, or you will also see behaviors that are escalated and could be at a very high level as well. And those are represented as well. And those apply to all students. So here's an example, again, a little bit hard to read. I know that there's a lot of text in that one chunk. On the left-hand side, you'll see kind of a list from A to O, and that is the existing code of conduct, the Gates-Chilai Code of Conduct, which really just talks about how if students are found to have violated the district code, they are subject to the following responses, and it is just listed as a list from A to O. The stakeholder group found the feedback that we got was that this was very vague language and quite subjective. Talking about behavior in terms of violation did also not mirror the alignment with restorative MTSS that they were seeking, and also allowed for a lot of subjectivity in offering interventions and responses. So you could have anything from an oral warning to a suspension, and those were not always applied unilaterally given the situation. So we've taken that and we've moved into what we're calling the tiered section. So I'll walk you through some of these tiers. What's really interesting interesting and great about the tiers is that it not only lists what the behavior is in each tier, you'll see this in more detail in the document itself, but it also lists for the first time ever who is responsible for applying those interventions and responses, which is a great deal more clarity than what we had. So tier 1, those are behaviors that and responses that could be universally applied. So if we think of classroom level, lower level tier 1 behaviors, we are hoping in this case that all teachers will be able to apply these responses and interventions. So for instance, if we have something like disruption, we really want to be clear what disruption is. In the past, the code may have just said disruption quite vaguely. In this sense, we're really being clear, so that we're not being subjective. So in this case, disruption is if a student is making noise, talking out of turn excessively, or out of their seat. Another word that often gets a lot of subjectiveness around it is non-compliance. So we wanted to define that here. And then in the code, you'll see that there are both responses and interventions. A response could be something in the moment that needs to happen. And again, remember, this is a classroom level behavior, so it could be applied universally. So a response could be something like stating expectations, offering reminders, offering students physical movement breaks, and intentional seating. An intervention would be something that would follow to make sure that the student is continuing to be supported beyond that immediate behavior. So that would also allow for partnership, as we said, with families. So how do we partner with our families and caregivers around conferencing? How can we reteach those skills? And how do we continue to have the conversation to make sure that that behavior doesn't escalate? That's tier 1. Tier 2, did you want to do tier 2? You want me to keep going? Okay, so tier 2 is when a student's behavior requires additional support. Again, there's two things here. So not only is a tier 2 a behavior that requires additional support, but it can also be a persistent tier 1 behavior. Oftentimes we get asked the question, well, what happens if the student just continues to engage in that behavior? This new version of the code will allow for students' behaviors and interventions to be bumped from tier to tier if that is necessary. And in this case, we will have a multitude of other interventionists who will also be supporting the behavior beyond the classroom if needed. So in this case, we have some examples here. Persistent tier 1 behavior is an example of tier 2 behavior. And we also have some specific examples around verbal altercations and physical confrontation. We wanted, again, to be very clear about what we mean when we say verbal altercation or physical confrontation. So in this case, a response would be something in the immediate that could also be a classroom or could also involve support staff members coming in and offering reflection opportunities, checking in with the students, checking out, and then also offering a number of proactive and responsive restorative practices. An intervention could happen if needed, and those is, in the past we would have called these consequences. We're calling them interventions so that we can continue to keep the door open for skill building in this sense, and also to offer a level of accountability. I think that piece is really important to reiterate. There's still a great deal of accountability in this current version of the code. So in this case, if a tier 2 behavior does warrant an intervention around loss of privileges, that is certainly offered. Conferences are offered, and we do have available suspension up to 2 days. Whether that's in school or out of school is determined by the nature of the behavior, but that is certainly an option that is offered at this tier. And then tier 3 is for those very, very high level behaviors. Again, there is a measure of accountability built into this as well. We would hope not to see as much tier 3 happening because we're hoping that behaviors do not continue to get bumped up as long as they have the support, students have the support they needed. But we know that in some cases, tier 3 behaviors do happen, and these interventions are really for those high risk or pervasive behaviors where there is intensive individualized support needed. So again, we have given you some examples here. Tier 2 behaviors that are persistent would be considered a tier 3. Things like academic misconduct or any conduct that endangers the safety or welfare of others would immediately be a tier 3. And again, these interventions would be offered in the moment and also with support staff, and also thinking about for the first time a shift that's happening is how do we not only address the student who is in the moment with the behavior, but how do we also address the impact of the behavior on other people who are experiencing that harm as well? So we've also offered here, the stakeholder group really was excited about the idea of putting in repairing and restoring harm that happens not just with that student, but with other people who might be affected as well. And if a student is removed from the classroom for any number of time, how do we proactively support classmates? I think that's something that often does not get addressed. How do we support classmates when students are returning? And again, interventions, again, these are things that could be offered. They're not always an option, but again, the accountability measure is there, that there would be a re-engagement plan that could be developed if students need to be removed. And in this case, an up to 5-day out of school suspension for those very, very high level behaviors.
So we also updated some of the policies, and again, we really wanted to focus on what were the policies that either were not aligned with current practice, or what were the policies we really wanted to be intentional around. And so we heard a lot from students that they felt like the dress code policy and practice was not always inclusive, and that it was disproportionately impacting female students, students of color, and LGBTQ+ students. So we really wanted to take a look at that and take out language that wasn't aligned with what we were trying to create. And then also the digital citizenship and acceptable technology use. Like, if we think of technology over the last 11 years, it has changed tremendously. So really thinking about how do we teach students to be responsible digital citizens? How do we gradually give them more privileges around cell phones and technology so that they can learn to be responsible with that? So those were some of the things that were also considered as we were updating the code. And then we wanted to share a couple hopes from stakeholders, and you can read these, but really I think there was a lot of time, there was a lot of energy, there was a lot of commitment, a lot of passion put into this, and so the stakeholders just wanted to share some of the hopes that they have as this goes out for public comment and as we present to you. So we wanted to share those. And then I think
that it?
I'm handing it back over to Jason.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Marion and Andrea, for that. So happy to say that we've extended our partnership with the Children's Institute into the 2024-2025 school year, recognizing their crucial role that they're going to play in helping us with the implementation of the revised Code of Conduct. To begin these efforts, staff members will convene for 2 half-days tomorrow and Thursday to collaborate with Marion and Andrea on developing a restorative practice toolkit. And this toolkit, which is intended to be housed on our staff intranet, will start with resources and strategies that will create a welcoming and affirming environment for all learners. As the school year progresses, the toolkit will expand, incorporating input from staff, and will enhance our collection of resources and supports for all to utilize. Additionally, our colleagues from the Children's Institute will have regular meetings with our building leadership to work collaboratively to develop structures and support that will effectively help to implement the changes of the Code of Conduct. By anticipating obstacles and working towards solutions, learning blocks will be developed for staff that will be tailored specifically to the needs of each of the individual buildings.
So in addition to what Mr. DeJong just shared, that ongoing support is going to look different depending on your role within the district. And so we really wanted to provide intentional support for our building leaders as they're implementing this new code of conduct. And so that'll include meetings, frequent meetings with the team and building leaders, as well as meeting with administrators as an entire group, and then meeting with the leadership team and the planning team that they worked with this year, in addition to quarterly meetings with executive cabinet, just to keep us up to date with what's happening and be able to provide support if needed throughout with resources and so on. It also looks like, as we think about gathering feedback and some of what you heard tonight, it's developing obviously the opportunity for them to interact with our staff and to gather feedback naturally throughout the year, but also through a survey at the end of the year and accordion sessions that were shared earlier tonight.
And we recognize that this is going to be new for our staff and our administrators and our community. So we will be continuing to work through the 24-25 school year to develop those learning blocks in partnership with our Children's Institute, where they're going to support our staff in learning, but we're also going to support our administrators in creating and sort of fostering that restorative mindset that really is the foundation of our code of conduct. We will also continue with some professional learning, offering a variety of opportunities for staff to learn and grow in different ways over the course of the year as well. And we do really want to publicly thank our Code of Conduct Committee. They spent many, many hours over the course of the entire year to really dive into this work. You'll see representatives here from students, parents, guardians, and caregivers, faculty, staff, administrators, Board of Education members, and our community partners. This was truly a collaborative effort, and it could not have been done without all of their time and commitment to getting this right. And finally, I want to say thank you to Children's Institute. It was a huge undertaking, and especially Marion and Andrea really guide us in this work. From our in-person and virtual planning sessions, to leading the great work from our entire committee, to sharing the work along the way with our district equity team, stakeholder groups, and with you all today. We really appreciate them both, and we have a small token of appreciation for their work from us this year. Yeah.
Thank you all for your time. Not seeing any district residents present, we're going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to resume the public meeting?
Objection.
Dr. Richards? Ms. Littlewood? All in favor? Okay, the vote is unanimous. We're now back in our public meeting. That moves us on to our capital project update.
Hello, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Zach Mooney. I'm with Campus Construction. I'm a project engineer. I've been gladly working on this Gates Child Life Capital Project, and we're very excited to show the progress we've made this month.
I'm Kurt Bader with SCI Design Group, working alongside campus as well.
All right. We are building brighter futures, as we all know. So this month, the work completed, the general trades, DePasquale Construction has done the wall studs in district office. There's been a lot of progress made with the drywall being hung. It's really come a long way since February, and we're really excited to show that off at some point. The Fax Edition is doing the wall framing, exterior sheathing, insulation. They've been working on the roof out there, tearing it off, putting a new one on, doing a lot in the fax wing. The new PLC bathrooms just started demolition not too long ago, and we now have wall framing up, and drywall started being hung today. The tech wing, they started doing the demolition over there for the whole building, and in the middle school, we have started abatement in the technology and arts wing, and along with the site work, along with it extending the parking lot out. Plumbing wise, they've just been going along, really focusing on these bathrooms inside the school for the PLC and the single use. That's really about it for plumbing, and they've just been working real hard, doing the roof drains over at Fax. It's been going really well. Mechanically, same thing. They're kind of bouncing around from space to space, doing their rough-ins for the ductwork and the radiant piping. Those guys have been working until like 5 o'clock. I just saw them in the hall when I came here. It's crazy how much work they got. Doing the rooftop units as well. Electrically, really just wire distribution and feeding through the conduit. They got all their rough-ins done in the open spaces, and they've been working diligently, working around everybody, and it's been awesome to see their progress. So potentially for next month, we got drywall finishing and wall priming. They're going to start painting probably about next week. reinforcing the tunnel inside the district office for some file storage, continuing to rough in and do their distribution for their mechanical work, and hopefully getting windows this next month, so getting that all situated. In the fax wing, doing the interior wall framing. They've been doing the drywall installation, just started that today, so we're going to be continuing that in the August. They're doing the site work over there too, feeding new storm drains because of the new addition. Continuing to work on the roof, doing the roof edge metal, and continuing to work hard on that addition, getting the brick up soon in the next month. High school tech, if you go back there, you'll see that there's part of the building is down right now. It's completely open, and they've been doing
Interior is done.
yeah, interior is demoed. Yeah, it's been a lot, and they're going to keep going with that, getting the foundations for the addition in there, forming it all, and laying out for the wall framing that will soon to be in there. Middle school, we're going to be finishing abatement here in the next week or so, and they're going to go hard on getting the demolition complete in there and setting up for the new hallways and classrooms that are going to be in that space. Budget-wise, we've completed about 22% build from the contractors, so about a quarter of the way through at this point in time. And in the photos, you'll see here in the district office, they're doing all the sound retention and drywall in that space. Here you got a shot of the waiting area in district office, some of the drywall and studs laid out. This is a brick infill over where they're facing the Performing Arts Center. There used to be a door here. There's now 2 windows there for offices, and the brick came out really nice, matched really well. Here's a room that's been finished with drywall. That's really what they've been focusing on the last month or so, and going to be wrapping it up here in the next couple weeks. Again, another drywall picture. This is over by the near security where the business office is. It's the new hallway, finished with drywall and ready for prime and paint next week. Same thing with this office here. Some of the window frames have been delivered and installed too, so you can see the high impact drywall for the hallway in there. Here's Mr. Daly's office here, superintendent's, all drywalled and boarded up. Another shot of the drywall in the hallway that's facing the entrance to the east. Over in fax, the addition, we've gotten the slab poured this month. They got all the plumbing rough-ins for the undergrounds all tied in, and the slab came out really nice. With that, they poured the deck for the mezzanine, and that slab came out really well as well.
It's a mechanical mezzanine.
Yeah.
RTUs, or the air handling units.
Yep. Here's exterior framing of the fax edition. In a couple shots, you'll see what the addition now looks like, and this was a couple weeks ago, but the studs are all laid out, structure is there. Got rough in of the plumbing undergrounds here for a sink in the classroom. It's got the hardwood floor in there.
The sewing room.
Yeah, sewing room for the fax students. You'll see the fax edition also was insulated this past month with spray foam. That's what the addition looks like now. It's got the sheathing over it, and it is ready to be bricked next week. So that'll really start coming along, and you'll start to see a big form. Here you see the technology wing is non-existent at this point. it's came out, they did it pretty quick, and it's been going along really well. And they've now got the concrete ripped out of there as well, so it's going well. Here's,
Sorry, if you walk down that corridor, you'll notice that there is protection on the inside of the corridor, all the way down, so it isolates the construction from anyone walking up and down the corridor, so that egress is still maintained.
Yep. True. You'll see more CMU wall demolition in this area. There's since been more, but this is a good picture showing all of it. They're shoring the structural beams that will end up getting reinforced at some point. And then at the middle school, you see we started the addition for the wood shop, and that's gotten poured with concrete, and the foundation walls have also been poured. So that's going to start soon. Once abatement stops in that area, we'll really be able to start putting our right foot forward on that one. This is a picture of what the space looked like before they started abatement. They had to demo out some of the walls in order to access the floor to get rid of the tile, but it's big open space now. You can see right through the whole hallway. And then the PLC bathrooms, you'll see they started to dig out the floor for the plumbing undergrounds, and they've gotten all that roughed in. They've started to, in the next slide, you'll see they've started to hang studs. They've got their connections made ready for toilets, sinks, and they actually started drywall in that space today, like I said, so that'll, by the end of the week, it'll have a form to it and be almost ready for connections. And then in the single-use bathroom down in the high school as well, you'll see that the girls' bathroom now has a wall gone, and where that wall in the middle is, there will be another wall there, and that door will be the single-use bathroom for that space.
Also, there were about 80% through submittals for this phase of the project. A couple weeks ago, we sat with the district staff to review finishes, and those were finals improved. So those are in the queue too to be released as part of the, as Zach was saying, the paint's going to start finishes as far as plastic laminates and solid surfaces and fabrics are going to be on site probably the next couple months. The slide he has up next is for the phase 2. That is currently at SED, as we've been saying. That's been there for probably 4 months now, 5 months, and the anticipated comments, we were expecting to get those back at the end of August. We got architectural comments last week, so we're working through those. A few, nothing crazy. We're tracking those through the next round of comments will be for mechanical. Those are about a month and a half away, so we're pretty much on track with what we've been tracking for August and September. Then it goes to the project manager for their review. So we're still tracking to have this completed through SED probably in October, bidding in potentially hopefully November, December.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you guys so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
That moves us forward to our consensus items. Can I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda? I have a motion. Mr. Banowski, Ms. Littlewood, any discussion? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Can I have a motion to approve consensus items C through I? Dr. Richards? I'm sorry? He said it's added in there. Thank you for checking. I appreciate that. Sorry, I had Dr. Richards and Ms. Jennings. Okay. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. Any other discussion? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. That brings us to our superintendent's comments.
Well, I'm proud to share that Gates Charlie was again approved to offer free meals to all students in 24-25. That means they can eat breakfast and lunch for free every day in one of our Gates Charlie cafeterias. Families do not have to fill out any forms for their students to get the free meals at school. but they still need to complete an income eligibility form, which is tied to other benefits for their students. To complete that secure application, families should still go to gatesjolly.org/income form. And don't forget our summer meals are still going on through Friday, August 9th. Stop by for breakfast between 8 and 9 a.m. or lunch from 12 to 1 p.m. at Gates Jolly Middle School. Check out our menus at gatesjolly.org/menus. And I know you've all been waiting. It's the moment you've been waiting for. The launch of Parent Square and Gates Jolly is just days away. Parent Square is a powerful tool that will streamline communication with families across our district for students in grades K through 12. Later this month, that will mean teacher placements, class schedules, and bus assignments. Our team has been working hard behind the scenes to make this a successful launch, including holding Family Ambassador Session earlier this month that was attended by nearly 30 parents and guardians from across our district. Look out for more information about how to activate your Parent Square account this Thursday. And a big thank you to the leadership of Mrs. Petrosino and Mr. McKinney in getting this to this point. Summer school and extended school year. July has been a lot of fun and exciting month here in Gates Jolly. Our students and staff have been hard at work as part of our summer learning and extended school year programs. I know they're going to finish strong and enjoy a break before we begin school again in September. And it's hard to believe, but we're announcing fall athletics. A reminder that registration is now open for all fall sports. If your student needs a physical, high school students can get one on August 13th and 15th from 12:30 to 2:30, or August 20th from 8 to 10 a.m. in our high school health office. For middle school students, the dates are August 22nd and 26th from 9 to 11 a.m. in the middle school health office. Remember that JV and varsity football begins on Monday, August 19th, whereas varsity and JV, all the other sports begin on Monday, August 26th. And currently, we're still hiring, so check out our open positions at gatesjolly.org/jobs, and then either share or take the first step in becoming a Spartan by submitting an application. And finally, some congratulations to our board. Congratulations to Mrs. Katie Coffey for being reelected president and Dr. Christine Richards for being elected VP again. We look forward to working with all of you and all our board members this year. 2024-25 will be the best school year yet in GC. That is my report this evening, President Coffey.
Thank you, sir. Can I now have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ms. Davis, Ms. Jennings, all in favor? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.